Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I started a little early because I just wanted to make sure everything was working. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure. That makes sense. How's everything going
um,
today?
not too bad. I just got home from work, so that was pretty good.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay.
There
Yay.
you go.
It's working.
And
Okay.
you can
Yeah,
you
sure.
can hear me clear, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you hear my dog in the background. He's deaf and he likes to make a lot of noise.
No worries.
So I might have to open up the door every now and then because
Okay.
he's just a wild one.
Yeah, no worries at all. Generally, what I'll do, just so you know too, is once we finish, I'll download this video and I'll
Mm-hmm.
actually upload it to my YouTube podcast one. And then I'll
Nice.
go ahead and I'll post back the link so anybody that missed it, or you can share it later to everybody else.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. I think I kind of did this thing with I forgot her name, but she has like a bob and graying hair, and she's very nice.
Julia, was it Julia?
Julia, yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just met her, so I'm like I
yeah,
forgot her name.
yeah.
But
She's part of the whole block party thing. So everybody gets you to when you're gonna have a new release, and they
yeah.
put everything out there.
Yes, and so I signed up for that because of Alicia, and yeah, we did like a little interview thing. So
Yeah, what's the day your book comes out? Is it out now or does it come out
it comes
tomorrow
out
or?
December 1st.
Oh, okay.
December
Yeah,
1st.
so they will all post your stuff on that day. So you'll get hit from like every angle for the day of your release.
Yeah, I think they said they're gonna post it on the 5th because a lot of people, I guess, have book
Yeah.
releases around that time frame, which makes sense. It's the end of the year, so people are trying to like get it in, I guess.
Yeah, I have mine planned for the first, which I'm hoping to hit, but I'll see. It may not happen also.
Yeah, I'm like there's so much going on. There is a lot
Yeah.
going on.
So for the ones that have joined already, thank you for joining. Going to be chatting today with author E.M. Dark. Why don't you introduce yourself to anybody that's joined that may not know you or may not follow you currently?
Okay, hi. My name is Ian Dark. I'm 34. I'm a mom and I live in Tennessee with my husband. I have 4 dogs and 2 cats, and I just wrote and I'm about to publish my first debut novella called Gnome in Your Home.
And that's the one December 1st, right?
Yes, it's coming December 1st, and book 2 is following it in January, like the end of January ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you give everybody kind of an idea what the book's about? And again, you don't have to share more than you want to, but kind of give everybody an idea what it's about.
So, Gnome in Your Home is a dark, spicy Christmas novella. It is a holiday romance centered around Christmas about a single mom who has a Christmas wish granted, and the King of Christmas, who is a gnome, comes and he grants that wish because he's had his eye on her, and a lot of things happen from there. So,
That's that's great. Yeah, I have it's interesting because I have the two Christmas books coming out in December. So
mm,
I have the one planned for the first maybe, and that's my serial killer Santa. Santa that's
yeah.
just fed up with everything and just goes completely insane. And then I do have the smutty Santa one that I planned maybe by the 15th of December, December 10th or 15th. And
Wow.
that's just full Santa smut, really, to be honest. There's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
Santa's basically going to visit everybody on the naughty list. So that's basically what it's going to be.
Oh, okay. Well, mine is really smutty. I mean, like a lot of my readers who are read for me said, "This is spicy. This is spicy, spicy, spicy." So it is very, very smutty. It's very smutty. So I would say one thing to be warned about with my book specifically is to read the trigger warnings because it is heavy on the grocery shopping list of trigger warnings.
Yeah, that's generally the best idea for a lot of these books is just make sure you go through that. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think you've read Temptation yet with Camila, but that's the
I
same thing.
haven't.
Everybody's like, make sure you read that because that's completely unhinged on every level. So
I personally like reading pitch black dark romance. I actually really love that scale and genre. However, I'm shocked I didn't write one. I'm shocked I
it's still
didn't.
there's still time, right? It's still early. You're on your first one right
Well,
now.
I will say that, like, so do you feel like your book right now that you wrote, Temptation of a Succubus, is like one of the darkest ones you've ever written, or it's kind of like, "Nah."
Okay, so the answer is yes, because technically this is the first one I've written in that genre. So
Yeah.
I have children's books. I normally do horror, and I did write one romance short story that's ebook only. So this one is basically me just going completely right turn, and essentially what I did is I said, okay, what are the trigger warnings? What are the different tropes and stuff? And let me just take everything to level 11 and just go at it all the way through. So it's, all the way to the top in terms of dark, unhinged, dark, twisted, spicy. Everything's just as high as I could go in terms of those levels. Because
Uh,
I wanted to, if I was going to do this, I generally what I like to do is I want to do something, I just go full out. And that's
mm.
what I did, right? It just went full out with that story.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so for me, I feel like I normally go very dark, right, in my reading, and I want to go dark in my characters. But since it's a Christmas novel, I just felt like it had to have a little fluff in it. And since my book is technically a parody comedy, because it's
Uh,
really funny on top of being dark and spicy, um, it wouldn't have worked if it was like super pitch black. So Axel is like fluffier than I think I would normally want. However, the next character in my next book is going to be darker. He's going to be way more unhinged. He's going to probably be like the norm.
yeah, yeah. For those that are watching, technically what I did is I put a flash sale for Temptation that'll start at 7:05. So you should see a link pop up if you haven't read it. If you want to get it, it's on sale. You get all the book merch that comes with it. So that'll actually be available on here. Um,
So,
yeah,
what,
it's interesting because I go the other way, right? I just say I'm gonna go as dark and deep as I can, and then figure my story around that, right? And that's essentially what I'm doing with the Killer Santa. Is I was like, how unhinged and sadistic can I make Santa, and then just fit it within the story? And basically, it attacks almost every part of Christmas that everybody loves, and it is just completely twisted on the other end. It's kind of crazy.
I like that though because that's original. I feel like I've read a lot of holiday romances lately, and this is no shade at all to any other authors. Just they're very similar in like tropes and like themes. So I like that something's different. Like it's like, oh, okay, well Santa's fed up, and so he's
Yeah.
going on a he's going on a killing spree. Okay.
Yeah, he kind of no, he not kind of. He really eliminates one famous or popular loved Christmas character. And
Oh,
one of our other fellow authors, Priscilla Stone, who has her book coming out tomorrow too. She
yes.
sent me a message because she reads a lot of like beta reads my stuff. And she's like, I've never been mad at you before until I read that scene. And I'm hoping everybody feels that way because I completely wanted it to go that way where it just, a lot of people will be upset about it.
That's so funny. So I feel like that's kind of the beauty of writing, though, is like when you get people's emotions to come
Hmm.
out in the story. I love that. I really like. That's
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, it's one of the things that I tend to do is I wind up essentially killing everybody. Everybody dies, right? So, one of the things, even if there's a character that you really love, there's a good chance they're not going to make it to the end because that's generally where I like to take it because I want you to have that emotion and say, "Oh, I really love this character," and then I say, "Oops, sorry, they're not there anymore."
Oh, oh God, that's the worst. Oh, I feel like I am like, I don't know. So like, are you really vivid with like dreams and like when you're writing, do you like hear the voices? Like that sounds crazy, but do you hear like the
No,
voices or do
I
you imagine it?
yeah. So it's the way I write essentially because I'm a huge horror movie fan, right? That is my core. That's where I get a lot of not my ideas, but that's really my foundation. And generally, when I write, it's interesting because when I write, it's basically always that one draft and then I clean it up. There's very rare
Mhm.
cases where I go back and rewrite any scenes because usually it's like I'm watching the movie as I'm writing it. So it's almost like I'm dictating the movie I'm watching. And then, so a lot of times, some people, when they've read some of my stories, it feels like you're watching a movie. It's like taking you through the scenes you would kind of see in a movie as you're going through, because that's how I see it. That's how I'm seeing the scenes as I write them.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I feel like my mind is really similar. I feel like some of the characters I've held on to for like years. And it's kind of weird because now I'm like getting them out of my brain and I'm like, okay, so what do I do with you now? And then I'm like sitting there writing, and as I'm writing, it all comes to me. And I feel like my friend originally is who I wrote this story for, and they were like, "How did you think of this stuff?" And I was just like, I don't know." I was just writing, and it was like coming out as I was writing, and I couldn't tell
Yeah.
you other than I couldn't tell you anything else.
And that's the beauty of being an indie author, right? Because technically we can do anything we want, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to, I don't have to write any story a certain way. I don't have to make the characters do what most people expect them to do, right? And not like it's a story that, oh, I've seen that before, but as you're reading it, sometimes you're like, okay, I think this is where it's going to go. I like to go the other way. I really like to change that because I want it to always be, I like to be different, right? I always want to be different
Mm.
and just go with, how I think the story should go. And really the beauty of being an indie author is you can write any story you want. You can write it however you want. You can take it as dark as you want. You can take it any direction you want because it's yours. It's your story. It's your voice. And that's what I've always loved about this.
That's true. So, did you like writing in dark romance? You think you're gonna do it again?
I already have another one planned. I have one planned for next year,
Oh,
which will be probably just as dark, unhinged, and spicy. But it's basically going to be the enemies to lovers trope. What it's going to be a vampire
mm.
queen and basically a demon hunter that almost like a Van Helsing type of character that are mortal
Oh,
enemies, and that's all the stuff that happens around that.
oh,
So
that's good.
I plan that probably for the second half of next year.
That reminds me of like like Castlevania.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
Castlevania vibes.
yep. But very smutty. Is what it's gonna be.
Very nice. I love that. I like that.
Yeah,
Um, that sounds really interesting. I really like the paranormal aspects, so that's really cool. I like
yeah. I
that.
mean, I think the reason I do that is because the horror side, right? So if you read if you read Temptation, there's a lot of horror. So it's probably more of an erotic horror versus a dark, or I like to say dark romance.
Yeah.
Because I really take it more on the horror side of it and just, go full in on there. Hi, Brooklyn. Hi,
Yeah.
Vani.
Hi everybody that's joined, by the way, and we were saying hello to you. we didn't we didn't mean to not say hello. We were just deep in conversation. But hi Natasha, hi Jessica, hi Bonnie. I can't see all the comments, sorry.
Yeah, they're going up pretty quick, so I'm missing some of them too.
Same. But oh, hi Brooklyn. I feel like since I'm on my phone, it always goes like super fast for me and the comments
Yeah.
are so little.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I always do this on my phone as well, so it's the same problem. So after
That's
the
funny.
second book that you have planned, do you have other stories that you have planned, or
Yeah, so
most of the time we always have a lot of ideas just kind of going around.
I actually have, so this book, this series, it's actually a series. So it's called it's called the Holiday Court Monster series. So it's a 5-book series that I have planned. I already have book 2 almost finished, so that's good. Book 2 comes around like late January because it's Valentine's Day themed because they're holiday monsters. And then I'm gonna have a Easter time frame book. And then I wanted to do like St. Patrick's Day. However, I don't know if I'll be able to tackle Easter and St. Patrick's Day in the same
Yeah.
time frame. So I think that it might be moved to like summertime, but that's okay because 2 of the characters from that specific book come from 2 of like the holiday courts. And it's a sapphic romance, and I'm really excited to share that one. So that's book 4, and then book 5 is for Halloween, and that will be a white shoes, and it will be way spicy.
So
And then
you plan on releasing these over a couple of years span, or try to get it within the next year, or how are you going to do that?
so since most of them are like novella size, I think that I don't know. I think I might be able to swing it within the year. And then maybe just take a little break and then write the story that has always really been there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You always have to write at your own pace. There's only a couple of crazy ones like me and Brooklyn that's on here that are just constantly kicking out books one after the other.
Right.
I mean, essentially, I have right now the Killer Santa December, the Smutty Santa December. I'm actually going to be releasing a children's book in December. I have my short story horror anthology January, and I have my werewolf book 2 February. And then some
Wow.
point by June or July, hopefully the second dark romance is the plan. But I always wind up, adding stuff in between there as I go.
Nice. Yeah, no, and I also plan on writing an MM romance as well. That's going to be very spicy, very smutty. So yeah, I plan to finish this series out in novella style, so they'll all be novellas and it will kind of come together as like one book. And then book 2 to this book will come next like Christmas time, but it won't exactly be Axel and Olivia. It will be another Christmas couple, and it will kind of finish out like the series, hopefully. Hopefully.
Okay.
We'll see.
I see you down there, Brooklyn. So see, Brooklyn wrote another Christmas short story as well. So
Oh, very
between
nice.
her
Yeah.
and I think we just keep writing and don't stop on that side.
Nice. I feel like honestly I pulled this out of like my I have no idea where I pulled it out of, to be honest. So I'm kind of like nervous because it is like such a parody, and I do have all the titles and like plans and characters for the next books, but I'm like, oh man, the book that will come after this series is going to be so serious, so I wonder how that transition will work.
It's crazy because the stories can come from anywhere, right? The ideas for it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the Killer Santa was basically because Shauna, the author, had made a post one day and said, I really want, any Rex of more like a horror thriller Christmas. And then as a joke, I said something, and and I go, okay, I'll write it, right? So that's why I started writing the short story, and then I just had made a photo of Christmas Zaddy, right, the smutty Santa, which I thought was funny, and everybody liked it so much. I go, okay, I guess I'm gonna write that one too. So a lot of these are just things that kind of come out of nowhere, right? It's just something that just wasn't originally planned. It just kind of pops up.
Yeah, that's exactly what my book was, to be honest with you. So I'm part of a book club with SJ, you know her.
Yeah.
And so I'm part of a book club with her and some other really great girls. And they were like, hey, they've read some of my writing before and they like it. And they were like, hey, you should write Elf on the Shelf smut. And I was like, oh, yeah, that would be so funny. So I wrote like, I think it was like 3 chapters or something of Gnome in Your Home, and they were like, you have to keep writing this. And so I wrote the whole book, and I finished in like a weekend, like no joke, like I finished the whole thing in like a
Yeah.
weekend, and they were like, holy cow. And so when I gave it to them, they read it and they ate it up, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna publish this, you're gonna publish this because it's too good. And I was like, all right. So that's
Yeah, I
kind
mean
of how this happened.
yeah, that's great too. Is when you really get that idea and it just rolls, right? And
Yeah.
you could just keep going through it. I mean, that's always such a beautiful thing when that happens.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of write like you do. So I definitely wrote like everything in just one shot. And then I went back and I like rewrote things that didn't really make sense or had to be cleaned up, grammar, just sentences that were like, this doesn't belong here. Um, But one thing I did do is because I had such a long span, I guess, between the time that I wrote it and it was just finished, and now I'm just kind of waiting for
Hmm.
it to come out, is I wrote 2 more chapters. And then I was like, well, I guess I have 2 extra chapters to add to the book now. So
Yep.
that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. It really is interesting when you write some additional stuff after,
Hmm.
because you'll notice at some point that your writing will change a little, right? Because your not your vision, but you've changed a little. The foundation, maybe something you've read or something you thought about when you're rereading it changes, right? So sometimes you pivot it differently. It's always very interesting to see that when you've written something and then you go back and read it and kind of go back into it. It's always interesting to see that. It's just not always the same voice that you originally wrote in. It's slightly different.
I agree, and I think it's really strange because when now that I'm working on book 2, I'm like, oh wow, this is like a totally different thing. It's like so like I feel like Gnome in Your Home is really really funny, and then Stupid Cupid, Humans Are Pets is like more serious and dark, but it's still a little funny, and
Hmm.
it's very different. They kind of are polar opposites. So I'm like, yeah, this is different.
Yeah, that's great though. You really do. It's great to be able to go back and forth, right? And go in those different, much darker, much more comedy or lighter or just straight smutty, whatever that thing is. It's
Yeah.
it's always it's a good reset sometimes to go in between those different ones and not really stay in that same voice, right? And it's interesting when that happens because you really, again, you'll notice when you go from the dark side and come back to some of the lighter or the funnier stuff, that voice will change a little again. You may have little aspects of some of that dark that creep into it, and it just enhances the overall the voice and the story.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's been happening to me between book one and book two. And I'm kind of like, oh, huh, this is interesting. What inspired
Uh,
both of your new books? For Adrian, Carrie? Or just like both of us in general? Oh, thanks, Trina. Thank you, Trina, for all the gifts. Thanks for stopping by. Hi, Nellie.
okay,
Oh,
if you could go first if you want to answer that one.
okay, what inspired? Well, my book club inspired my book. Essentially, they asked me to write Elf on the Shelf smut, and I did. And now I'm publishing it, and I'm nervous. I'm so nervous because I'm like, oh, it's not just my book club and my friends anymore. It's gonna be everybody. But I feel really blessed to have had such a strong group of readers and friends who encouraged me and wanted to read my book and read my book. I mean,
Yeah.
thousands of times,
Yeah.
like over and over and over. And so I feel pretty blessed right now because I'm like, wow, this idea just blossomed into 5 books, and now it's a whole monster.
Yeah, that support system is very, very helpful to have somebody just to, to read it, to knock ideas off and say, what do you think of this? Does this work? Does this make sense? It helps a great deal when you have that.
Yes. What inspired yours? Well, you said your Santa book is inspired by.
Yeah, The Killer of Santa was inspired by Shauna the Fletcher because she wanted to read a Christmas thriller, so I wrote it. The Smutty Santa, again, I just made a photo that I thought was funny because I put Christmas daddies coming to town, and everybody liked it, and they started saying, "Oh, I want to read this." I said, "Okay, I'll write it." But probably the more interesting one is really Temptation. So Temptation really came from a little short paranormal ghost story idea I had, and anybody that's actually read the story, it's really the storyline that the Elena reveal, right? That Elena reveal was initially the little short paranormal story I had, and that branched out into the entire Camila story, when Camila took over the story, right? So, but it was really that little thing that I had planned for my short story collection that just blossomed into the full, Camila craziness that everybody seems to enjoy.
Yeah, I've heard she's very unhinged, so that's exciting.
There's nobody like her. If you ever read it, there's nobody like Camila.
I actually do plan to read it. I plan to read it in the new year just because I feel like right now my brain is mush. My brain is like trying to figure out KDP, and it's been a process.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know Vani loved that story. She was one of my original beta readers for it too. Before I actually released it. Yeah, she's crazy. There's a lot
I
of
love
just
that.
crazy things that go on in that story.
I love that though. I like when the female character is unhinged, honestly. Feminine rage is an awesome thing.
Yeah. Unhinged and Feminine Rage is basically from page 1 through the last page of Camila. It's just a constant, pedal to the floor. She's just going full speed.
Woo. Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, you said you have some some comedic parts in your
Yeah.
book. I did that in Temptation because it's dark, right? It's very, very dark because it's a serial unaliver and a succubus demon, right? So what else can you be but just as dark as possible? So there is a chapter in there um, called The Dark Romance Girly, which was really, it's kind of me, not poking fun, but me, there's a character in there that basically is a dark romance reader. and
Yeah.
how much she kind of enjoys the entire stuff that happens in that chapter, even though everyone knows it's going to go the wrong direction. And
Mm.
everybody's kind of loved that chapter because it really is, just kind of taking it, when you see the videos and, where the book talk is doing, with the slashers, the masked men and all that stuff. It's really taking that another level with a kidnapper and tentacles and a lot of stuff going on in that chapter.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I feel like mine because it has like the monster romance element. Um, so I got a lot of the comedy from dad jokes. Dad jokes really were for the win for mine. So dad jokes came through really hard. And I feel like just some of the things that happens in like the smut is kind of like where the funny comes to, and it just makes it like, what the heck did I just read? Like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
because you're right, you do have to have a really good balance with the dark, because I do have a lot of dark elements in mine as well, and I feel like it needed to have that balance because it's Christmas themed. So
yeah. You kind of have. Well, I say you kind of have to, but I don't know if there's any relief in the slasher Santa. I really, I don't think I have any yet, right? But and I don't know if any are coming. But
oh.
yeah, it's hard when it's just cover to cover of just dark, just page after page are just dark.
So I feel like those ones are the ones that like rip you apart. Like, so I don't know if you've read Manicule, have you, or Manislet? Oh God, I already say it so wrong. I'm so
I think
sorry.
it's Manacled. Yeah, I
Manicule.
haven't read
There
it.
you
Yeah,
go. Did you read it?
I haven't. No,
Oh
I
no.
write too much. I never get a chance to read anything. I'm, I'm
That's
too
how
busy
I
writing.
feel. I feel the same way lately. I'm like, I never get a chance to read anything in the past month. But yeah, no, so that book is really, really, really dark, but it's very emotional dark. And so like the dark works because of how emotional it is. And so I feel like if you don't go like the funny route, like you kind of have to go the emotional route, you know? And that's the part where I'm like, that's not me as a person. I'm not like, I just don't like the books that tear you down and open. So for me personally, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with funny. I'm gonna go with funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. I mean, dark. There's so many layers of dark that you can go right, where it's graphic dark, emotionally dark,
Mm.
or a combination of all together.
Yeah.
Right? You can just take it all those different layers and you have to have something kind of behind it, right? You have to have something in there to lighten. I don't want to say lighten it up because you can't, right? When it's that dark, sometimes there's no lightening it up, but you have to do something to sort of like a palate cleanser, something that takes that a little bit away, right?
Mm.
With the Camila one, there's nothing redeeming about either character, and I really wrote them purposely to so these are horrible horrible people, but everybody, I wrote it in a way where sometimes you can't help but like her, right? You like Camila's so darn crazy and unhinged. Even when she's doing stuff, you're like, I love this lady. She's just absolutely the best. And even Emiliano has things that, somewhat redeem him, but they're just not great individuals. So you have to try to put, I try to put some of the romance stuff in there and the push and pull between them to why they're doing some of these things. But the overall backdrop is just you're like, man, these two they just don't let up, right? There's just nobody safe around them when they're there.
Oh man. That's wild. But I feel like that's kind of like the erotic horror aspect, right? Of like the
Yeah,
dark. Because
yeah,
erotic horror, there is no let up.
yeah,
There is no let up. Either it's gonna just be gory and crazy, or there's just dark and wild, you know? So I mean, I don't blame you for writing it that way. I
Yeah.
don't.
And,
I
and
find,
it's kind of funny because my wife actually asked me, she was, why don't you write a full romance story? Right. And I said, okay, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to take it the horror route and I'm going to go dark. And really,
mm,
that's where this came from, right? She's like, go ahead and write a romance story. And I'm going to just take it as dark and crazy as I can with the aspects of romance in there, but, have all that horror, have the gruesome part of it, the gory part of it, and the just dark and sadistic part of it. But technically, it's a romance. There's romance in the background of it.
yeah. I mean, well, there's books I read that live rent free in my head forever. Like The King, for example. I actually read that book while she was still writing it on Wattpad, before she started her indie author journey. And holy cow, like that one is like so wild in a sense of like it's similar to yours, where it's like there's just chaos and unhinged craziness the entire time, and then when you get to like the romance elements, it's like the darkness just doesn't even seem so crazy because of how much crazy there is, and
Yeah,
then it's like it just works. I don't know how to explain it, but it just works.
yeah, yeah. You're right.
That's
Uh,
so
why don't
hard.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about, because we talked, about your books, and we will talk more about that. But talk a little bit maybe about your book club or your other page, which is more the reading side, right? More the book talk side,
Oh yes.
and talk about a little bit what you do there, because not everybody here may be following you, and they should, right? Because both of your pages are great.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I've been on Book Talk for over a year. So I got on last year around October timeframe. I was just looking for friends. I didn't even know Book Talk existed really. I just was on TikTok one day and I really wasn't a fan of TikTok at all whatsoever. And I was always like, why are you on there, to my husband? And he was like, oh, people are just posting stuff and he doesn't want anything to do with book talk. So I just was scrolling one day and I saw a masked man video and I was like, what is this craziness? But then a book popped up and I was like, what book is this? And I actually really love reading. I've always enjoyed it. So I just went down the rabbit hole one day and I ended up on Book Talk and I've been there for a while. I stopped posting during the summertime this year due to some family circumstances. My ex husband, who is my daughter's dad, OD'd, and he I thought he passed, but he didn't. And it was a wild ride and a lot of high emotions. And
Yeah,
summertime and kids is just a crazy mix. So I was gone for a little while. And when I came back, I just was like, well, everything's a little different, because
yeah,
social media changes very fast. And when I came back, I just kind of just do my own thing. I don't know. I try to stay out of like the drama side
yeah,
of the books, and I tried to stay in the books. And of course, with everything that's going on in the United States right now, and with what happened with the election, I just felt it was really important to highlight BIPOC, queer, indie authors, just because a lot of the times they don't get the best end of the stick in the traditional publishing sense. And so I just felt like, well, this is what I care about. This is what I'm passionate about. And I just decided to highlight that. So I
yeah.
started doing Her Moment Mondays and shouting out BIPOC authors on Saturday. And so far it's been fun. It's been fun to learn about new authors. It's been fun to learn about authors that I really haven't read before, or I have read before, but now I'm getting to see them in a different light.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's been really fun, like a different side, I guess, of book talk, and not just focusing on like the books. I feel like it's pretty fun focusing on the actual writer too. So
Yeah.
that's been interesting.
It's interesting because that's essentially how we met. Because you messaged me and says, "Oh, can I ask you some questions?" Like, okay. So, you did the shout out for me on that side, but it is very interesting because, book talk, and it goes for almost everything. I originally came from X or Twitter, and there's a big book community there, and same thing started falling apart, and there's too much craziness that goes on over there. But
Mhm.
when you find that book community, right, and the heart of the book community is very supportive, right?
Yes.
And the beauty of it is there's a kind of a movement, but just an overall feeling of a lot more book talkers, other authors wanting to support indie authors because, in reality, it's a lot of work. It's really a second job for all of us, right? We don't make any money off of this. You make just enough to pay for your next cover or your next editing job or your next set of bookmarks or whatever it is. You're not really making any money doing this, but we do it because we love it. We do it because we love telling stories. We love writing, right? We love getting our voice out there, how we want to tell these stories.
Yeah.
And that's why I always try to support everybody I can. I'll try to share their posts. If I see somebody's low on followers, I try to put them on the story and say, go follow this person because I know how much work it is. I know how much we all put into this. And it's a passion project for all of us. We do it because we love it, not for any other reason. And I will always support that.
Yeah, I agree. So before I was really into the book talk scene, I actually sew, and I have a clothing business where I make handmade children's clothing and like hair bows and stuff like that. And I sell, and I have an LLC and like actually sell. And I was doing really well. However, it just was like not passion. It wasn't like a passion of mine anymore. And so when I came over to Book Talk, books were really speaking to me. And I did meet like my tribe. I told you about my book club. There's
Yep.
about like 13 of us that are part of the book club, and they're just really amazing girls. They're super awesome people. And we just kind of have our own little chat, and we're like in there, and we just do our thing, and we do our own little thing, and we support each other. And I feel just really blessed to have found such a great community. And I also feel like just people who aren't in my book club are amazing people too, because a lot of people that I've interacted with on my reader account before I became, an author have just been amazing people. Like I've
Yeah.
met so many amazing people here, and I'm blessed. I feel super blessed, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel also it's really different to transition on Book Talk from a reader to an author, because before I feel like I didn't have very crazy or unrealistic expectations as a reader, just because like I said, I have owned a small business before, and I understood that like it takes a lot to put into that. And I've always tried to be very supportive of indie authors, even before I started being an author. But once I really transitioned over, I was like, whoa, this is like it's like a whole different animal. I don't know. It's like a
Yeah.
whole different beast. And so now, like I said, right now on my reader account, I'm really just trying to highlight other indie authors who are BIPOC and queer, mostly, just because I feel like this is hard work. This is
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much went into being an indie author until I was being an indie
Until
author.
you do it. Yeah. So there's a lot involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, and talking about the support systems, Vani, that's down in the comments, she's one of the best at it. She's
yeah, she
extremely
is.
supportive of everybody, whether it's an indie author or other book talkers. She's the absolute best. So she's a great example of how supportive and how amazing book talk can be, right? And how it should be. Because there's one of the things I always like to say is there should not be competition with indie authors. because none of our voices are the same. I don't care if you write the same story line or the same type of story, it's not going to be the same. It's just never going to be the same, right? So there should not be
Yeah.
competition. They're completely different. And the one bit of advice I can give you author wise is just always stay true to your voice, right? Whatever your voice is, however you want to write that story, however you want to tell that story, do it just as you want to do it, right? Because the
Mhm.
one thing you will notice is the challenge for all of us is finding our readers, finding our audience, right? But they're out there. It's just, can you find them, right? You're trying to find them, whether it's on, TikTok or whether it's Instagram or whatever. You're trying to find the audience. The audience is trying to find you, but there will always be an audience for your voice, no matter what it is. So never feel you need to change the way you tell a story, the way you want to write it. You always stay true to yourself, and that will always bring out the best story it is, because it comes from your heart and soul, right? So that will
Yeah.
always be your best work when you do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
I
tenfold on that. That is amazing advice just because I feel like when I did start, editing and changing things in my story and like started asking like my beta readers and my friends, like, hey, do you think I should da da da? They were like, no,
yeah,
just keep it how you wrote it. And I was like, oh, okay. So
yeah,
like, I think it's amazing advice just because it's a big struggle to release something into the world and let somebody read it and feel like I work so hard on this and not feel emotions.
yeah.
So, yeah, but honestly, I feel like even, if you get like good criticism, you get bad criticism. The bad criticism is good too, just because you can use it to be like, well, how can I make it better?
Well, the one thing you always have to remember is that you're never going to please everybody, right? You just
Oh, yeah.
can't. That's why there's a huge group of audience that likes one type of movie and hates another one. Why they like a certain, genre of music and hate another genre. Everybody has a different taste, right? So you can never please everybody. So if you get a bad review, somebody gives you a 1, somebody says I hated this book, it's going to happen, right? There, you can't take that to heart, because there's just no way everybody that finds it or reads it is going to love it. It's
That's
not
true.
possible, right? So you can never take any of that to heart at all, really. You just got to just keep doing you. And that's why we say, stay true to your voice, and it'll always be the best story you're going to write if you do that. Don't worry about what others say. Don't worry about others say, oh, you should have done this, or you should do it this way. You never do that. You always be you, right? When you're being you and you're being genuine, that's always going to be the best version of you, right? And that's the one thing, anything in life, but in writing especially, just stay true to what you want your voice to be.
I agree. And thank you so much for the advice. I feel so like I just feel so blessed, honestly, to just have such a great community because, like, I feel like I'm learning so much, and I feel just, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to seem cheesy, but I feel just so grateful to be able to come into the knowledge, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just to be able to have the knowledge and come into the knowledge. And I also really enjoy being a reader. I enjoy interacting with authors. I enjoy when authors interact with me and when they actually are, like you said, very genuine. They're genuine to their stories. They love what they do. They're passionate. But I also just feel like now that I'm an author, I really like connecting with people who just love reading my stories. And honestly, to
Yeah.
me, like you said, it's like it's not about the money. It's more about I just want you to love the story, and if you love
Yeah.
it, I just want to give it to you. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like you know what
It's
I mean?
it's really something that it's
Right.
feeding your soul, right? That's the
Right.
beauty of it. It's
Yeah.
something that feeds your soul,
Yeah.
and you never go wrong when you do that. I just
Yes.
so you always wanna do that, right? You just wanna always stay in that mindset of doing things that feed your soul. And it goes back to you said it earlier, right? Finding your tribe, that it's that support system because we all understand each other, right? So like the indie authors, we all understand again how much work it is, what we're putting into this, what we have to do to get these things out. Sometimes the incredibly crazy schedules we put ourselves on to release way too many books at once. Uh, so it's difficult, and it's hard to explain that until you start getting in that mindset,
Hmm.
and then you notice there's a lot of stuff to do this, right? And you made another good point. There is no manual to say how to be an author, right? You have that in you to tell a story, right? You have already that
Hmm.
in you, how to tell a story, how you want to tell a story. Really, the manual needs to be, how do I do this in terms of the time management to do everything else I got to do during the day? How do I do this, you know, money management to be able to release as many things as I want to release? And mainly the thing is, how do I do this to really get my book out there, my story out there? Because again, sometimes you just need somebody to find it and read it and love it. And then the word of mouth helps, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely love book talk, but the one issue with book talk sometimes is you basically always see the same books everybody reads, right? It's
Yeah.
almost always the same things, which is fine because they love them, they're great books. But that's why it's always beauty when you have some of these that are trying to find indie authors and go, oh, I read this, to try to get out there, because sometimes you get lost in that noise, right? You can't, your book gets lost in there, and it may be loved, but it just doesn't get seen. And that's the one
Yeah.
challenge you're going to find is the hardest part of all of this, is just getting your work out there and getting eyes on your work.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I mean, I just honestly, I wasn't really thinking about that when I was going through the publishing phase, to be honest with you. I think mostly what I was thinking about when I was just going through is just, to be honest with you, I wrote this book for my friends and I wanted to make them laugh and I wanted to make their spirits just lift because, again, I wrote it around the time frame where everything was crazy, where
Yeah.
everything was about to be even more crazy. And now everything is wild out here. And so I just honestly want to make people laugh. I just want to uplift their spirits. It's been fun to create things on top of the book, like merch and
Yeah.
artwork and things like that on top of it and make characters come to life. But I think more so for me, like I said, I love connecting with the reader and just being like, you loved the book. Oh my gosh, yay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so glad that you're like laughed and that you got like, something out of it. To me, that's just way more exciting, I feel like, than I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a little fish swimming in the pond with all the
Yeah.
all the big fishes
It,
because I'm like, well,
it
this is a
is.
little overwhelming. I'm just gonna
It's
go swim
difficult.
over here for a while.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go do me. I don't know. This is too much for me. I've always been that way though, because even in the reader sense on book talk you can feel the same way, I guess, if you're very concerned about like following and followers and, building. And I've always just been like, well, I'm just gonna go swim over here because that looks nice. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always looked at the follower side of it is basically again another way for me to help boost others, right? So
Yeah.
when I see my numbers going up, then I know, okay, I can help boost some other ones because one of the things a lot of people I think forget when they start thinking about followers and that side is it doesn't really matter if somebody has 30,000 and you have 1,500, right? Because your
Mhm.
1,500 may be people that have never seen that 20,000 person, right? And that's why it shouldn't be something in terms of a number count. It should just be sharing and getting everybody's stuff out there, whether it's book talk, whether it's an indie author, just sharing everybody's stuff out there for others to see, because that's really how everybody grows, right? So somebody sees something, oh, I've never seen this person before, because they may follow you and you shared their post, and that's really how everybody can get out there they may buy your work, they may not, or they may start following you, they may not. But that's really how all of this works and really helps everybody out. And that's where I always look at, whatever my follower count is, just to try to get more people out there so they can get seen.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like for me personally, I'm just like, it's nice, to build it up, to be able to put your little link in the bio, right? So you don't have to say all the things. However, like I said, it's been way more fun for me personally to just connect with the readers, to just talk with readers, to just, tease people about my book and just like have fun. So I felt like that's fun. And also, like you said, to uplift and share, which is why, like on my bigger platform, which is my reader platform, which that's what I do. I mean, I've been doing that ever since I've been there as a reader. Even when I first came to Book Talk, I would go purposely onto Kindle and like KU and just look for books. And that like, I would be like, no one's talking about these books. What are these? And I would just go and I would share them and people would be like, what? I never heard of this book before. And I'm like, it's good. It's good.
Yep.
So, it is what it is. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm just kind of like one of those fish in the ocean and I'm just swimming along and I'm like, well, there's the big guys over there, but this side looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like the bright colors over here. I like the fish over here, just vibing with people. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the same problem. One of the problems, I get it's not a problem, but sometimes when I'm writing this stuff, I want somebody to read it, right? And I may not have my book done. Vonnie's one of the ones I always send all these little excerpts to, and a little chapter here, a little story here, and I go, "What do you think of this craziness?" Right? And there's a couple that I do that with, but that's my problem. So sometimes I write this like, "Oh man, I want to share this part of it," and I start saying, "Here's a little sample here, here's a little sample here," because I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what I did, honestly, with my book is like I wrote it and then I shared it with my friends. I shared it. And I am so blessed to have amazing friends and beta readers and ARC readers. I had amazing ARC readers. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm shocked, honestly, that I have so many reviews that I have right now and that I have amazing people and like who have read my book, seriously. And I feel like I still continue to add to and write, and I've kind of had to like slap my hand now and be like, no, don't write anymore. Don't add anything else. Don't write anymore, because if you do, then people are going to be like, what? What is this? This isn't even what I ARC read, because I feel like I'm still just so yeah, I've had to chill a little, bit on that.
I think that's the challenge when it's a novella.
Yeah.
Sometimes you start going, you're like, wait, there is a lot more story I can actually put in here.
Yes. And I feel like, however, it gives me a lot of goodness to add to the other book, to the other book. Yeah. So that's been fun. But yes, I did do that a little bit where, like I said, I added an extra epilogue and my ARC readers didn't read that extra epilogue yet. So it's going to come out on December 1st when the rest of my book comes out.
That's a little surprise for them, which is also good, because sometimes the ARC readers and beta readers have read the story and they love it and they probably want to read it again, but there's nothing new, right? They've already gone through it. So something like that is great. I mean, it's a nice little surprise for those that have read the whole story.
Yes. So, yeah. So yeah, but anytime you want to share a story, I'm open. And so yeah, I'm here. I
don't know if you want that. You see how much I'm writing, right? How many stories I got going at one time. So there's things all the time.
I I seriously feel like I'm doing the same thing because, okay, so before I was writing here, I was writing on Wattpad. And this was like years ago. I was writing there and I stopped for a little while. And I actually saved all the stories to my laptop. So I've been going through them and reading them. And I have like a werewolf. I legit have a werewolf book that I could publish tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And then I have like a BDSM one over here. And I have this monster one over here, and I have a dark romance one over. Like it's wild. It is too wild.
They just want to know how many books do we have going on right now?
How many? Oh, me personally?
Yeah, I'll answer it after you, but you answer it first.
Oh, too many. Too many. So technically, I'm working on book 2 and book 3 in my Holiday Court series. And then I have a werewolf book that I've been writing because I love those. And they're like my jam. And then I have like it's like a mafia slash like BDSM club type book romance that I was working on, and I actually had it published to Wattpad for a while, but I took it down. So I don't know, too many.
For me, I have the same thing, and I'll do my quick plug, but I do have this one right now that you can go get in my TikTok shop. Actually, for those that haven't read it or haven't bought it, I will have Black Friday sales for this because I actually have a bunch of stock coming in over the weekend. But to answer the question of how many books I have the Serial Killer Slasher Santa scheduled for December 1st. I have the very smutty Santa book that's coming out by December 10th or December 15th. I have a children's book that actually is going to come out in December, hopefully before Christmas, so that'll be available. I have my horror short story anthology coming out right after the first of the year in January. And that one has my take on La Llorona. It has a werewolf that fights his way through hell for his love. It has a very, very, very dark and depressing paranormal story. And it has a story of ruthless gangs that actually use werewolves as their hitman, like their sicarios. So that's going to be the short story collection. And then I have slated right now for February, book 2 of my werewolf book, Lycoan Bloodlines, scheduled. And I probably will have the book reveal tomorrow, the book cover reveal. I'm supposed to get it sometime tonight or tomorrow. Then I have the other dark romance going on, which is the Vampire Queen versus the Demon Hunter, which is enemies to lovers. Super spicy, super dark, super unhinged. That'll be sometime mid to late next year.
Ooh,
and I might add some more stuff in the middle.
So, like, is your werewolf book like more so like Lycan type werewolf, or is it like werewolf like mates, or
No, it's
like
not. It's not the mates thing. I when I wrote that, I wanted to. I'm a huge horror lover, and I love all the classic horrors of Universal. And I'm older than most of you guys watching, but the Hammer Studios in the '70s, which are basically the Universal classics with a twist. They just did them in different ways, which I loved. I just loved seeing those stories in a different take. So my werewolf story is more in the era of that classic horror, right? So there's some gore, there's some horror parts of it, but it's more the storyline. It's really kind of taking you through his discovery of who he is and what's going on and why this is happening. And the reason the title, the Lycoan Bloodlines, is Lycoan was actually the original werewolf, right? He's the kind of like the werewolf god, because in the original story, he fed the flesh of one of the slaves to Zeus. Zeus got pissed off and basically cursed him to walk around howl like a wolf, and he's the original werewolf, right? So that's the original, and that's why that's called Lycoan Bloodlines, because I wanted a werewolf story that was different. I didn't have to be a full moon. I didn't want it
Mhm.
necessarily to have to be a bite or a scratch or something to turn you, or a curse that turns you. I just wanted it to come from different angles all the way around.
That's so interesting. Okay, yes. Okay, that is so cool. Nice. I was just curious, like how you were taking that. Mine is kind of like typical. It's typical like mates, werewolves, but it's dark. So it's like rejected mates. The alpha is the a-hole who's unredeemable and, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's kind of like
Yeah, the book two that I did, the one that's coming out, um, I did it on two of my favorite stories, right? So basically, I'm doing a mashup of the Lost Boys, from the '80s, the vampire one with the
yes.
Corys. Um, so it's a mashup of really some of that storyline, and it's a mashup of Old Man Wolverine, right? So Wolverine, as he
Oh,
gets older, doesn't heal as well. He's slower. He's scarred. So it's a combination of Lost Boys and Old Man Logan is really what book two is going to be about in the werewolf.
oh, that's really interesting. That's exciting. That's fun. I love that. I love Wolverine. So that's super cool. Okay, okay. Hmm. Nice.
Does anybody else have any questions down there? We still have time to answer some.
Can't wait for book two. Woo!
Yeah, you just got the copy of the first one. Yeah, the book two's February is the plan right now, and you never know, it might be earlier. The way I kind of do these sometimes.
Exciting. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too much going on.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot
I like
going
it.
on, but I
That's just
appreciate
me, right?
everything. No, it's going fast, so I'm like trying to see. So when are we gonna start the Mafia MO?
I think she froze. Other year, you froze for a
I have
second.
like I said, I may have already started it. I may have like 8 chapters ready. So
And then
yeah.
Scarlett asks, "What was your favorite part to write in your story?" Scarlett, is that for M or for me?
What do you look for when you come with illustrations? I don't know who's what story person is that for?
Maybe this one because there's artwork all the way through it. Um, Essentially, I had an idea of what I wanted the vibe for the story to be, which is a mixture of dark and I love art anyway, and that's kind of what I went with. I had an image of certain things I wanted to show that would show how dark it was, how depraved it was, and that's what I went
Mhm.
with. So even if you look at the chapter artwork in the book, they're all leaning towards what that chapter is about or what's going on in that chapter, and it's just how I thought about it. And then I had an artist that I said, "This is what I want it to be. Can you make this for me?"
Yeah, so for the what's the favorite part of my story? My favorite part of my story, Scarlett, is honestly is the little elf. Is Kate the little she's not an elf. She's a gnome. She's like a little gnome. And she's really snarky and sassy. And so, like, the banter between her and the main female character is my favorite part in my story. And also, chapter 5 is my favorite chapter of my story because Axel delivers all of his great dad jokes. So there's the favorite parts of my story. Um, Adrian, what
Okay, I
was your
know.
favorite book
Okay,
that
there's a
you've
couple
read?
questions, so let me try to go through them quickly. Jess, usually I have basically the book blurb. So if you think about the blurb that's on back of the book, that's my initial thought, and then from there I just let the story go where I want it to go, essentially.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Scarlet, in terms of my favorite scene, There's kind of a couple. In the werewolf book, it's really the scene where he challenges the alpha for the pack. I love that scene because in my mind, I thought about it like an old gangster scene from an old gangster movie. And that's how I thought about it when I wrote it. So I love that scene. Um, and then I really do enjoy the dark romance girly scene from Temptation because I just had a lot of fun writing that scene and including everything that I needed to include to kind of get that story across. Vani, in terms of my favorite book, I think it has to be Camila because Camila is probably my favorite character to date because there was no boundaries, there was no limits. I didn't have to restrict her. I didn't have to restrict myself. Basically said, Camila, whatever you want to do, let's do it. Let's just go take it that direction. So that's probably my favorite right now because the freedom that was in that character to just do anything she wanted to do, essentially.
I like that. Um, what did you say? That's so cool because I thought artists would read the book and create from what they read. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I like too much control, Jess. So I don't want the artists doing their version. I want kind of the version I want, and then in their image of how they want to make it look. So a
Um,
little because of my Capricorn, a little too much control freak on that side of it.
oh no. I feel that because I'm a Virgo and I feel like my control freak tendencies are taking over a lot.
I was like,
Yeah.
I want it to look like this, but then you can put a little bit of your stuff in there.
Yeah.
That's essentially how it worked.
Bonnie, yeah, it's really hard. Well, so I feel like I have two social medias for everything because I was a reader first, and I decided to separate my reading account and my author account. And I don't know if that was the right move. I could have just, transitioned my reader account to an author account, but I just felt like in the reading space, I wanted to be a reader, and I wanted to start as an author in an author space. So yeah, it's been kind of difficult, challenging, keeping track of like all the social media. It's been a lot.
Any other questions, or did we miss any?
Are these projects your babies? Yes, yes, they are.
How did we decide on character names, Em?
Oh, so for me, I've personally had some of these names with me for a while. So for me, like I don't know if you do this, but I like I said, I'm a dreamer. So a lot of the times I'm like you when I'm writing, everything's just going on and playing like a movie in my head. And I'm that person that if I fall asleep with an audiobook on, I will dream about the audiobook. Like I am very vivid with my imagination. So the characters had already been there. They were already living here. They were already living here rent free. So I already had the
Mine
character names.
mine was a mixture. Caden, which is the main character in like Chrome Bloodlines, and this is funny because I originally named him, and I forget the name, but it's the guy from Twilight, whoever the werewolf in Twilight was.
Jacob, yeah.
Yeah. So I originally named him that, and everybody was reading and go, you can't do that. I go, I can do whatever I want, but okay, I'll change it. So I wound up changing the name because basically everybody's like, you shouldn't go with that name. Maybe you should change it. So I did change that for that reason. But a lot of the names in my books for all the characters, even some of the smaller characters, sometimes are just me honoring somebody I know, maybe passed on loved ones. I've put
Mhm.
my grandparents' names in there that I've kind of mixed in. I put people I don't really like in there on some characters that I was like, I'm going to name that one this one because this one's not going to be around much longer. So it just depends on that side. In my zombie book, I actually really thought about it, and a lot of the last names or some of the characters that come in, some of the characters you see later, I picked specific names that meant something. So I would look up the meaning of a name that I had. This is what I want it to be. I would look up what names mean that, and that's what some of those characters are named after. So it's really there's a message there in that person's name of why they're there, what their character is from the story. And with Temptation, really, I started with the three main names. I had Camila from the beginning. My wife helped me with that one. We had a couple names going back and forth, and she was like, "No, I like Camila. Let's go with Camila." Same with Emiliano. We had a couple. We were kind of picking back and forth, and she liked that one. And I had a different name for Elena, and then I wound up settling on Elena. But I just liked the way the names all blended together, and it made sense for the story.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of the female characters come from some of my book club friends with their names because I was like, "Oh, you want to be in my book?" Or like I was just teasing one of my friends and I was like, "Hey, so guess who you are?" And yeah, some of them their names happen to come from that, but that's fun too. I really like how you said you're researching things and like your spouse gave you the idea for names and you would like research it to mean something. That's really cool.
Yeah, I have her right now working on the vampire one to give me some names
Ooh,
to go through so we can pick what's gonna make sense on that side. Uh,
nice. I feel
yeah,
like
well, real quick though, one of the things Jess was leaving. Thank you for joining, Jess, but she did make a good point about kind of, which is why I love doing the indie author interviews that I do on my podcast, and why I love doing these lives is she made a point she loves seeing the person behind the pages, right? And that's
Mhm.
actually why I love doing this because, you and I can message back and forth in terms of, the couple of things we did, or I can share your stuff and maybe a message here. But it's more these things, these times like this when you really get to see who you are, who I am, right? And see really the person behind the account, behind the picture or whatever. And I've always loved it because writing or books is basically like any form of art, right? Whether it's art in general, whether it's music, movies, what is it the thing that really makes you love that? And it's the connection. And you're going to have a much greater connection, knowing something about that person. If you know how that indie author is, or a little bit of the backstory of why they're writing this, why they're doing this, it just makes that connection so much deeper, right? And then then you
Mhm.
find out, why did they write that story? Why is Adrian writing such unhinged, dark, sadistic storylines? It's because I like them, right? But you find out why you go down that direction, and it really helps that connection for everybody, for other authors to authors, for readers to readers. It's really,
Mhm.
you understand that person. You understand the person behind the page, behind the photo.
Yeah, I agree. I think another reason that like got me to really publish because like I said I've always been writing just to actually like publish the story is because there's not a lot of dark romance in my personal opinion. There's a lot of dark romance, but there's not a lot of dark romance with a lot of diversity or with main characters who are BIPOC. And so,
Yeah.
as a Black Latina female, I was like, well, I have the opportunity to write them. I have the opportunity to, make all kinds of different body shapes and sizes and, Black and Latina characters. So I feel like that's kind of another reason that I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's same thing on my side. I'm gonna try my best to always have something of the Latino culture in the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're characters, whether it's backstory, whether it's the paranormal, like my La Llorona, or some other stuff I mentioned in some of these other stories. I always want something in there because, again, there's nothing greater than when you see something that represents you, right? And there's again not a lot of Latin characters, maybe not a lot of Black characters in terms of the books when these things are written. they're out there, but again, they're hard to find. They're not the stuff on the main shelves when you go to Barnes and Noble. It's not the stuff you see most when you're going through Book Talk. And again, it really helps when you put that out there for people to see. And when you see representation of you, again, that connection is really there because you're like, this is what I'm missing, right? I love the stories, but I love seeing the stories now with this connection, right? Which is
Yeah.
why Camila's in Spain, why they're all, Spanish characters, and why I have main Latin characters in my zombie book. It's just little things I want to always toss in there.
Same, yeah, for me, same. Like I love the books, don't get me wrong, just like everyone else does that are very popular, especially in dark romance, Chantal Tessier, um, Navessa Allen, Penelope Douglas, all of those books that are very, very popular. However, a lot of the main characters are the same. They look
Hmm.
the same. And so I was just like, well, this is my opportunity to, start and make something different. Like for this character, she's very curvy, she's very short. My next character is actually going to be is going to be tall, and she's going to be a little bit like more thin, not as curvy. So, and she's going to be Latina, and so it's going to be, different. And I like that. Like I said, I also plan to write a sapphic romance, which is, a lesbian romance, and a male romance. And so, yeah, I love just diversity
Yeah,
because I feel like sometimes, like you said, it gets lost.
yeah. I mean, another thing I try to do, or I am going to do essentially, is I always try to have strong female characters, right? And Camila has taken it to another level, but in my zombie, strong female character. In my children's book, I purposely wrote it with the younger sister being the hero of the book because
Mm.
I always want to have strong female characters because I come from a family that's all sisters and all nieces, right? On my side, and I always want them to have strong, not role models. I don't like using the term role models, but strong representation of female characters that you can do anything you want to do, right? You can be the hero of the story. You can be the one that saves the day. Doesn't always have to be the male part of it, right? And I want to make sure that I have that going on. The children's book is probably somewhere between 7 to 11, I would think. It's not going to be a picture book. It's going to be a children's book with illustrations in it.
What
Um,
is it
but
about?
that it's so basically, I came up with an idea for an entire series. So again, I have two children's books. I have my Juliana's bedtime stories, which is
Yes.
really the one that's dedicated to the memory of my daughter, and that's really what got me into writing. Right, that's what got me. I've always written, but again, I've never done anything out there. Right, and that's what got me into this was the loss of my wife and I's daughter after doing all the fertility and stuff, and how can we do something to honor her, right? And that's what the children's book is, and it's going to be an entire series of children's books because what that book is me telling her bedtime stories like I would have. And the bedtime
Mhm.
stories are basically stories of my childhood with my grandparents, which were the most important people in my life, right? So it's me keeping those stories alive, honoring them, memory for her. That's what that series is about. The other series I came up with again is because, and there's nothing wrong with this, but when I really looked at children's books in general, they're always animals. They're always animals acting as the characters, and they're doing the stories, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, it's about representation, and I said, why shouldn't the children's stories be the children in the story? Why can't they be the hero of the story, right? So what that series is basically called the Playtime Adventures. And in the story or in the series, it's always going to start with the little sister and brother just playing. They're playing toys in the living room. In this case, they're playing like pirates. And they go to open the front door because they hear a noise, and they're all of a sudden they're on a pirate ship in the middle of the ocean. And there's all this adventure that happens in the story that they go through, but it's the little sister that's the hero. She's the one that takes charge. She's the one that saves the older brother, right? And in the
Mm.
story, he has respect for her and he's like, yeah, my little sister's really doing this. She's the best captain or whatever. And that's, again, that's where I want to take it, is that little girls to know they can be the main one. They can be the main character. It doesn't have to be the males that save the day. They can do it. Doesn't have to be your older brother. It can be you that does it, right? And that's, again, an honor to the females in my family and also an honor to my daughter, my wife, is to keep those strong female characters going in those stories.
I love that. I love that. It's so powerful. My kids are older now. They're getting into preteen and teen phase. But when they were little, I read to them every night, especially when my youngest was very little. We would read every night. And now she's an avid reader herself and she loves reading. And I feel like it's so important to share stories. It's so important to share stories about your life
Yeah.
and things that like you were taught. And
Otherwise,
it's
they get
so
lost,
fun.
right? They get lost
Yeah.
if you don't share them out there.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Scarlett, to answer your question, it is on Amazon. It's in paperback. It's on ebook too, if you want to just check it out. The the characters in there is basically is would be my daughter Juliana and my grandparents, and it doesn't look perfectly like them, but they did a good job of the two characters looking like my grandparents. And it's
Mhm.
basically me telling the story of how we used to go camping in Yosemite every summer. That was basically our summer vacation. And that's really that story. I'm telling her about what we used to do on our camping trips. And in the story, she's picturing her in the scene instead of me. So it's her with my grandparents rather than me, and she's picturing herself in the story. But it is on Amazon. If you go to my link tree, if I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but if you go on that thing on my profile, the link's in there. Or if you go on any of my books and just hit my author name, it's linked on there on Amazon.
That's amazing. I love that. I actually checked it out on this on when I did your spotlight, and I was like, wow, I definitely am gonna check this book out because this is cool.
Yeah, I originally the challenge with that one, otherwise I would have it on my TikTok shop, is that I originally did the paperback and there's a hardcover too, but I did it with Ingram Spark. And for
Oh,
those who don't really publish on that side, they charge you way too much to do the stuff. So I have to charge more than I want to sell it. And if I want to buy my own author copies, I'm paying way too much to get it. So then when I get it, I got to sell it for too much for it to make sense. So I'm trying to think of a way to somehow redo it and re-release it on KDP as a
hmm.
paperback, but I don't want to change the vision of the drawings or the story. So I got to figure out how to do that because I can't move it over exactly. It just didn't work with the files I had originally. So I'm trying to figure that out so I can re-release it, and then I can actually have copies from my TikTok shop. I have my own copy just so I have my copy, but I just don't have any available. So it's always on Amazon that you can pick it up there.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, how are you worried at all about, so there's a lot of talk that this may not be a thing anymore. And so like, with your shop, I'm sure that you enjoy having that. Are you worried about that?
So the honest answer is yes and no. Yeah, I am because I actually have my best sales from the TikTok shop.
Yeah.
Far better sales than I do on Amazon, and I get more of it from my TikTok shop than I get from Amazon when I sell any of my books through there, right? So I love being able to do that, and I like to be able to sign it and give bookmarks and stickers and stuff to go with it to give you something if you are purchasing from me because I appreciate it. Give you some extra stuff that goes with that, not just a copy you get from Amazon. So yeah, I
Right.
would hate to lose that. I did just to make sure I have a backup. I do have a Shopify website, which is basically
Mhm.
just my name, authoradrianlopez.com.
Right.
And I also have my books on there. So, but what I winds up happening is depending on the inventory I have, sometimes I put it out of stock on there and focus it more on the TikTok shop for people to be able to get it. And if I have enough inventory, then I put it on both. But if
Yeah.
this was ever to go down on that side, I would probably lean more on that side for the store part.
Yeah.
But the honest truth is, if this were to go away, which hopefully it doesn't, and I really don't think it will, there's too much money involved for them to just throw it away. Somebody's going to figure out a way to make money from it, and that's the ultimate goal for any of them. So they'll figure a way to keep it and get money in their pockets is essentially what will happen. But if it were to go away, you know, a lot of us have done things like we've gone to Blue Sky Social, we're on Instagram, we're on all the other ones. Basically, when you talk about this community, when you talk about the book talk family and the support
Mhm.
group, basically we can go anywhere because it's not the platform, it's the people, right? It's the family and the group of people. So it doesn't matter where we go, right? If it's Blue Sky Social, if it's Instagram, if it's Facebook, if it's any of those, Twitter don't do because Twitter's crazy. But if you go to any of those other ones, it's the people. Where do all the people go? So they're all together and back supporting each other. And that will happen, right? If this were to go, one of those would take over and everybody would kind of just go and try to find everybody they had on this side that was their support system, right? A lot of us are already on most of them and we've already slowly started following each other anyway. So we already kind of have a backup plan if something were to happen. Hi, Lindsay. But again, I just don't see anything that makes money for people. They're not going to just throw away and get rid of. They're going to find a way to make sure they make money from it. So I don't see it really going away.
Yeah, I'm thinking about starting a TikTok shop because I have bought some fun goodies to go with my book. And I made a mistake. I made such a mistake. So I got some stickers, and I love this for me that I didn't check the dimension of the stickers. So the stickers are like a quarter. They're like the teeniest little sticker that you will get, but they're kind of cute. And so I'm like, oh, I have these like cute little things to like add. So I've been thinking about it, but yeah, I was just curious, like how you feel about that. I'm glad that you enjoy it because that's exciting as an indie author to have a way to be seen outside of the Zon.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, with two TikTok accounts, it's a lot of work to have to post something on Instagram, post something now in Blue Sky, keep posting some things on X and Twitter because I have a big account there. Post something on Facebook. It's just, it's a lot of work to have to keep. Luckily, some of these are connected, so they go, "Do you want us to post over there?" And I was like, "Yeah, please." So I don't have
Yeah.
to go to each one, but it's
Yes.
again, it's a lot of work to be able to do this.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So that's fun. When you started your TikTok shop, and this is just me asking you, did you think it was like pretty easy to try to set up, or did you feel like it was like difficult?
It's actually very easy. It's very easy. You just have to make sure you're on top of when you accept the order and when you ship it out because they monitor how long you take to ship something. And
Um,
one of the things you'll find out, unfortunately, is that because all my stuff goes through post office, is I can drop it off and it doesn't show scan maybe for 2 days. I was like, dude, you guys have my book. You already have it. Show it at least in transit. And sometimes it just says
Gee.
awaiting. And it's not TikTok. It's sometimes the post office for some reason takes time. And other times I can drop it off in the morning on my way to work. And by the time I get home, it shows in transit. So I was like, there's no way to figure out which side you're gonna get. It's just sometimes it
Yeah.
shows. So you got to be very aware of the time limits to make sure you're
Mhm.
not doing anything to get late. You don't get charges, but you get little like knocks against your account. And if you
Oh,
don't
that makes
have that, they really let you do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things they sometimes give you free shipping for people that buy your stuff. They give you coupons to be able to pass along to people, and it's a way for you to still get your full amount, but the buyer is able to save on that side, right? So there's a lot of little things they'll give you as long as you're staying on top of that.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah, that's fun. I was looking at starting an Etsy because I have one for like my bows and stuff like that. So I was like, "Oh, okay, this would be easy for me." But then I'm like, I really don't know if I want to work with them
I,
again. Etsy
you
is
know,
just
I did an Etsy for, I started an Etsy, I tried for my books originally,
yeah.
and just no traction at all. And that's why I was like, I'll forget it. I tried, before I did the TikTok, I tried eBay, and I said, let me put it out there. I can do the links on my posts. I tried Etsy. I said, let me try it this way because I wanted a way to be able to give somebody the book with stuff, right? Whether they want it
Hmm.
signed or not, but at least give them bookmarks or stickers or something to go with it, something a little extra. So I tried all those different avenues. You don't get any traction unless you're paying for some kind of promotion. And the
Right.
good thing
Yeah.
about this is, again, in the community of readers or other authors, and they see your stuff and they're like, "Oh, I really want to read that." Then there's a way for them to get in, a way for you to kind of give them something back, right? Whether it's the signature, whether it's the goodies that go with it, and that's what I just like is being able to give those stuff with it on that side of it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes
But
sense.
it's very easy to set up. There's no problem. There's a lot of this account, the TikTok thing does with a lot of stuff is there's always a warning for something, right? If I try to promote my thing from my book and I don't have a photo of the book, even though there's a digital photo, there's not an actual photo, they won't promote it. They go, "Oh, sorry, this violates." I like it's a picture of my book. What else do you need that to be? Or little things like that. So you always gotta watch because they're like, "Oh, you got a negative point on this." I was like, so there's just a lot of dumb little things on that side, but the setup is easy. The work through is easy. All the reporting is very easy. So it's a good way to set it up.
Hmm, okay. Well, thank you for the insight because I have really been looking at a lot of things. So thanks for the for the
Yeah,
insight.
it's
I
it's
appreciate
if you're
that.
gonna do it, it's the best one. It's the best one to be able to get your stuff out there. The TikTok shop is the easiest way to do it. Like I said, I have the Shopify account to have the website to sell. But as anything, you're gonna have to figure a way how to get that link out there, right? So you're posting and putting that link for people to go there when they're already in TikTok, right? Then all they have to do is click on the shop or click on your little page to see what you're selling. It's much easier. It's a much easier way to sell your stuff.
I agree. I agree.
Hi,
I
Mama
agree.
D.
Hi, Mama T. How are you? And thanks, Scarlett, for all of your comments. Sorry, we're like chatting so much we've missed a few things. But
Yep.
she said it's a lot of work. Scarlett is an author too. I actually have her book. Let me see if I can show you.
Well,
Her book.
any authors that are watching this, definitely, I always tell everybody tag me in your post so I can share it because I don't get to see everybody's posts. But just go ahead and tag me. It doesn't matter
Here's
how many times you
Scarlett's book.
post, I'll get it out there.
Scarlett's book. Right here. It's called The Billionaire Secret Baby. This is Scarlett Score's book.
Is
And I
Scarlett,
have
is your
the
book on TikTok or Amazon or
that's her debut novel. She has a few more after this one, but it's
make sure
on
you
the
tag me,
Zon.
Scarlett. Let me get your stuff shared out there.
It's on the Zon, but yes, she's an author. She's pretty cool. This book is really cute and it's pretty good. I think it's pretty cute.
Mama D or everybody else that joined a little late, I will be downloading this and loading it up to my YouTube podcast. So I'll go ahead and share the link to the recorded version of this for everybody that missed all the beginning. And that should be up, I would think, by Saturday. I just need time to download it and edit it out a little. But I'll
Yeah.
put that link up so you can see if you missed any of this time.
And thank you for everyone who's been here and just been chatting with us and letting us chat back and forth.
Yep.
Letting
Yeah,
us
I
be
mean,
chatty.
I'd like to do more of these, but my challenge is I'm in California,
Yeah.
and by the time I get home, most everybody else is either going to bed or putting the children to bed. So it's very difficult a lot of times for me to find other people to be able to get that time to be able to do stuff.
Yeah, I'm always up for late lives, but that's just because I'm a night owl. So I'm always awake anyway.
So
I
thank
actually,
you everybody that's been watching. I truly do appreciate it. If you don't follow Em, go give her a follow. Like I said, she has a great account, and her book's coming out December 1st,
yes,
correct? So her
yep,
book's going to be coming out December 1st. So get ready to go check it out and pick it up. And like I said, give her a follow and see everything she has out there.
yeah, and thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Again, like I said, I enjoy these to be able to find out more about other indie authors, even other book talkers, and just talk books, right? Because it's what we love. Again, books, writing. It's just so much fun to talk about it.
Yes, I agree. And thank you so much to everybody who's been here. Thank you.
Thank you again, everybody that stayed tuned and stayed on there. And again, I will download this and I will have the link up. I'll post Em and Ed and I'll post it out there. I would say by Saturday.
And
Okay.
also, thank you for all the love, y'all. Thank you for the coins and the love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Good night. Bye.